Hey, and welcome to the Winning Daily Show. We're here for April the 16th. We got a whole lot to get into. Ton of picks in Major League Baseball. Some decent tennis picks on the women's side. The WTA Charleston tournament number 2. We got some NBA picks and a whole lot of soccer to get into. We got a handful of games today, a handful of games tomorrow morning. Before we get into tomorrow afternoon game, we're going to get into those tomorrow, but we do have today's games and tomorrow early morning games. So if you need to get those in before our show airs tomorrow morning, we got you covered in those soccer games. And then we'll get into some DFS players of the day in the MLB and in NBA. So let's start out with our picks for the day. We're going to start out in the WTA on the Charleston side of things. The ladies didn't like any of the men's today, had a nice day on the men's side of things yesterday, but we're going to go to the ladies today, and we're going to start out with a bit of an underdog. We're going to go with Danka Kontovic, plus 190 over Shelby Rogers here. Really like this matchup here. Danka is 1-0 against Shelby Rogers. Now, granted, it was on hard court, but after losing the first set, she beat up on her pretty good. So I like that matchup, getting 2-1. She's a solid clay court player, Danka is. So other than this being on Shelby Rogers' home country, I do like Danka here with a 1-0 record against Shelby. So I think that's a really, really decent play there, getting plus 190 there. So we'll see if Danka can spring the upset against the American Shelby Rogers. All right, let's go to Astra Sharma, minus 150 versus Linda Frutatova. Really like Astra here at the 150. I think it's a little bit low, especially with the way Astra plays on clay. So I think you're getting really good value at the 150 here. So I'm going to play Astra and let it ride. Really decent bet here for Astra to move on. And lastly, we're going to go with the long name, Maria Camilla Orso Serrano. Plus 4.5 versus Clara Tassan. Really like the 4.5 here. Maria is a clay court specialist, so I think she'll be able to give Clara Tassan a bit of a match here, especially considering these are two young players matching up. So I don't look for a blowout here. I look for a tight matchup, so I really, really think the 4.5 is really, really good value here. All right, let's move on from the ladies in tennis and to the men in the NBA. We got 3 picks today. We're going with all favorites today. There have been a lot of blowouts in the NBA the last month, so we're just going to ride that trend and continue riding it. The Dallas Mavericks have not been one of the teams getting a lot of blowouts. And just we're the one team that didn't cover for us the other night in our NBA picks, but I like them tonight versus the New York Knicks. I think the Dallas Mavericks minus 5.5 points versus the Knicks. I just think Dallas is poised to go on a run here. They had a bit of a losing streak in the last week and a half. I think that Doncic shot will propel them into a couple really decent games here. So I look for them on a blowout versus the New York Knicks here and to cover that 5.5. Next, we're going to ride the Denver Nuggets minus 8.5 versus the Houston Rockets. I know the Jamal Murray news you want to take against this Denver Nuggets team in the 8.5, but I just think they blow the Rockets out. They got too much talent still with Jokic and Porter. Gordon will have to step up a little bit. Monty Morris should be able to handle getting some points, and this Rockets team is just terrible. So don't be scared to take this 8.5 Nuggets spread here. I don't think the Jamal Murray injury will come into too much play in the regular season. You're going to see it more hamper them in the playoffs, and we'll see if they can get out of that first round in the playoffs without Jamal Murray. We'll wait down the line and see if we might have some betting on that in the playoffs, but during the regular season, I'm not really scared here to ride the Nuggets, so I think the Nuggets covers this 8.5 pretty easy. And lastly, we're going to go with the Toronto Raptors minus 2 versus the Orlando Magic. I just think the Raptors still trying to fight to be in that playoff mix. I just look for him to blow this Magic team out, which has been terrible for a while now, and I think -2 here is a bit of a gift. You know the Raptors are coming to play, and the Magic are in tank mode, so I really, really do think -2, bit of a gift here, so I take that. All right, on to soccer, and we got 8 bets in soccer in this afternoon and tomorrow morning. So got a lot to go through. Let's start in the Premier League. We're going to start with today's afternoon game, Everton versus Tottenham. I'm going to take Everton plus the half goal minus the 140 versus Tottenham here. This game has draw written all over it, especially the way Everton is played. And really, I just think Tottenham is down. They looked very, very unenthusiastic with the way last week's game ended versus Man United. I don't see them with much of a shot of getting into that top 4. They're already bounced from the Europa League. Really, the only thing they have to focus on is that I don't know if it's the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, that they have versus Man City coming up in a couple weeks here. So really, I don't know what their focus will be. They looked really, really down, especially Son and Kane. Some cryptic comments coming out of there. So if anyone, I think, can win it, I think it's Everton. But I think this game has draw written all over it. So I really like that plus half goal, minus 140 for Everton here. We'll see if Everton can sort of find their way back into the groove after really sort of playing mediocre football for the last couple weeks here, really for the last couple months. But they've managed to keep themselves somewhat attached to this race, so a win here over Tottenham would be really, really big too. And next, we're going to take the team we've been riding for months now, West Ham versus Newcastle. We like West Ham here, minus 110, minus a half goal versus Newcastle on this goal line here. So I just think West Ham will shut Newcastle down. I don't see any way Newcastle will score here. I'm sure West Ham will find a way to get a goal. And speaking of finding a way to get a goal, Jesse Lingard has been getting them in bunches for West Ham. So we're going to take Jesse Lingard plus 120 to also be a goal scorer in this game. So we got 2 bets on the West Ham-Newcastle game tomorrow morning at 7:30. We're going to go West Ham minus 110 on the half goal line versus Newcastle, and then we're going to take Jesse Lingard plus 120 to be a goal scorer versus Newcastle as well. Just love this West Ham team. I hoping they can break in to that top 4 and into those Champions League spots. All right, let's move to Germany. In the Bundesliga, we got RB Leipzig versus Hoffenheim today. Easy for me to say. Anyway, really, really should be a really entertaining game. Hoffenheim's been playing pretty solid of late, but I don't have a bet on this game for the 2 teams. I got Alexander Thorloth, the Norwegian goal scorer, who's been playing a lot of late. He has really about 4 of his 5 total goals in the last couple weeks. I really like him leading that front line there. For RB Leipzig, it has a little bit of a Timo Werner feel. He seems to be able to find ways to get goals. So I got Alexander Sorloth plus 115 for a goal. I also have Alexander Sorloth for a goal and on RB Leipzig win 2-0, 2-1, 3-1. So that's plus 500 there. So we need Alexander Sorloth to get a goal and RB Leipzig to win 2-0, 2-1, or 3-1. I do really like RB Leipzig here, but I couldn't find a great way to sort of even out my odds. I didn't like the handicap on it or the draw no bet. Yeah, maybe the 3-way, but it was so lopsided in RB Leipzig's way. I just thought I'd take a shot, and maybe we can hit this perfect score and get the Sorloth goal. If we get a Sorloth goal, the 2 bets should split, and you'll be okay going 500. But maybe shot in the dark, you get the Sorloth goal, and then you get the correct score at 5-1. I really do like that value. Okay, moving on to the next game in the Bundesliga. Tomorrow morning, at 9:30, we got Union Berlin versus Stuttgart, and we're going to take both teams to score here, minus 140. So I think this should be a really entertaining game. Stuttgart's fallen off after a nice little run there about a month ago, but they've let me down the last couple weeks, and they've given up a couple too many goals. And Union Berlin's been... they've been solid all season long. They were flirting with that top 6 for a little bit, but they seem to have runs of hot and cold on the goal scoring, but I do think there'll be goals in this game. So Union Berlin versus Stuttgart, both to score -140 here. I think this should be a really open game. And lastly, in the Bundesliga, we're going to go with Wolfsburg plus the half goal -110 versus Bayern Munich. Now, Munich might have a couple of their guys back. They're being a little bit coy about it, but I just think they'll be a little let down after the Champions League game during the week. They do sort of need this game to really push that Bundesliga lead, but really, if they don't win this game, they should still be fine. I don't see a way for RB Leipzig to catch them. It put a little bit more pressure on them, but I just think they'll come out flat here. I really like the way Wolfsburg's been playing. That was a great game last week with Frankfurt and Wolfsburg. So I think there's a really solid chance there'll be a tie. So and I think there's a good chance Wolfsburg could spring an upset. So if you're looking for a nice underdog play here, I think Wolfsburg a live underdog, but I'm going to go with the handicap here and go with Wolfsburg plus a half goal -110 versus Bayern Munich here. And then we're going to move to America and the NMLS. It's just kicking off here, but we're going to go Minnesota United on the handicap of the half goal here, +105 versus Seattle Sounders. This was a showdown of the Western Final last year. Really like this Minnesota United team. They really started to come on towards the end of the season last year. They look for them to be one of these top teams out west here. We'll see if LAFC can bounce back. The Sounders and the Portland Timbers will be hovering around. Very interesting to see what the Galaxy do, but I really like this Minnesota United team. Getting a half goal and +105 versus Seattle Sounders. A little bit of a revenge game, and the Sounders tend to get off to a little bit of slow starts. So I really do like this play on tonight's game, Minnesota United half goal, +105 versus Seattle Sounders. All right. A lot of picks so far, and we haven't even gotten to the baseball, and that's up next. Let's go to the baseball world. We're going to start out with the White Sox at -108 versus the Boston Red Sox here. Just think there's really good value in this play here. If you had told somebody at the beginning of the season the White Sox were only going to be even money favorites versus the Red Sox, you jump all over that. White Sox have gotten off to a bit of a slow start, but I look for them to sort of bounce back here. So White Sox -108 versus the Boston Red Sox. And then we'll go to the Philadelphia Phillies, and we're going to take a bit of a ride here. We talked about it last week when we took against the Cardinals and Carlos Martinez, and I'm just going to ride this all the way there is until they probably pull Carlos Martinez from the rotation for the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't know if they have much of an option, but I just don't think he's a great pitcher anymore. So we're going to take the Philadelphia Phillies minus the 2.5 alternate run line +235 here and try to win us some money on a big game blowout here. I really like the Phillies to score a lot of runs here. I don't mind their pitcher too much here. I do think there's some value here in Zach Eflin. I do like his stuff, so I think he'll be able to shut down this Cardinals team, and I think they'll score a lot of runs. So I'm taking that alternate run line of 2.5 +235 for the Philadelphia Phillies versus St. Louis Cardinals. Next up, we're going for the Milwaukee Brewers, -154 versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. This one's pretty simple. The Brewers are just a better team than the Pittsburgh Pirates, so we're probably going to ride this matchup all weekend long for sure. So we'll start out at a nice -154 Brewers over the Pirates. Next up, we're going to the big-time series over the weekend. The first matchup, Padres-Dodgers. Tatis should be back. I just think the Padres have more to prove in this series, so I think they'll try to sort of take it to the Dodgers here. The Dodgers don't really care too much about this series. Their focus is the playoffs, but I think the Padres want to take as many series off the Dodgers as they can. So Padres getting +130 here versus the Dodgers, and I'm going to ride with that. 2 more games to go in Major League Baseball. We're going to ride another long shot here. Colorado Rockies +245 versus the New York Mets. We went against the Mets the other day with the Phillies. That game got postponed. We talked about DeGrom not getting a lot of run support here. We're going to carry that over, and maybe he doesn't get a lot of run support here for the Colorado Rockies. So I think that's decent value there at 225, almost 225, 245 for the Colorado Rockies, and see if we can hit almost a 2.5 to 1 long shot. Lastly, we're going to take the first 5 Washington Nationals on the run line of a half run at minus 144 over the Diamondbacks. This should be a really easy matchup. Scherzer's gotten off to a bit of a slow start, but he ought to mow down these Diamondbacks pretty easy. The Diamondbacks are throwing out a nothing pitcher, so the Nationals should be able to jump on him pretty early, and really like this first 5 Washington Nationals minus the half run run line on the first 5 at minus 144. So those are the bets and the picks for the day. Let's move to our DFS and get into our players of the day. On the pitching side of things in Major League Baseball, we got 3 guys we really, really like. I mean, it's a full slate today. So you got all the way up at the top, DeGrom and Scherzer, and then you got down at the bottom some really, really scary guys. I'm going to mention one of them, but the 2 guys I highlighted is we talked about him a little bit in our bets. Zach Eflin for the Philadelphia Phillies versus St. Louis Cardinals. Really like this matchup. Should be able to get a cheap win at 8,500. It's a little less than the really top guys in DeGrom, Scherzer, and Matz, and even throw Buehler in there. And then you get a really good matchup that I think the Phillies should win easy. The other one I'm looking at is Frankie Montez, Oakland versus Detroit. That first matchup paid off yesterday. Got a nice win on Oakland side of things in my bets. I think Oakland will continue to cruise versus a poor Detroit team who did have some nice wins versus Houston, but I think they're going to go up to Oakland and struggle definitely. So Eflin and Montez are my main pitchers, and then I talked about it, and I would be against it if I said I liked the underdog bet and then didn't at least throw Chichi Gonzalez for Colorado into a couple lineups at 5,500. That really lets you open up things if you're going with a $5,500 pitcher. Maybe you can steal a win in there. The Mets aren't the greatest hitting team of all time, but they will be in Colorado. So use sparingly, but anyway, Chichi Gonzalez at 5,500 if you're really looking to save some money on pitching there. I think there could be an upset there because there's a whole lot of bettors to definitely get through. Let's go to first base, and really they had a handful of position updates and changes, making a lot of guys multiple positional today, but we're not going to go with these top 4 guys. I really like Rhys Hopkins versus St. Louis and Carlos Martinez. We mentioned how we like the Padres, so we're going to ride Eric Hosmer here. I think there's pretty good value at 3,500, but I really like Ryan Hoskins versus the St. Louis Cardinals. Yermin Mercedes and Jose Abreu versus the Boston Red Sox. Their pitching continues to be poor. They keep winning games, but their pitching is poor. So Mercedes and Abreu, I definitely take a look at. On the cheaper side of things, Josh Bell hasn't gotten off to a great start for the Washington Nationals, but he'll be here hovering around at 3,200 versus Arizona. Look for that to pay some dividends. Matt Olson versus Oakland, batting in that 4 spot, should be able to handle Detroit. And Travis Shaw and Milwaukee versus Pittsburgh. I think there's really solid value there. On the really cheap side of things, I wouldn't use Houston Herrera here at first base, but he is an option. We'll talk about him later in other position eligibility, but at 2,600, decent value. Mitch Moreland for Oakland versus Detroit. We talked about that. Good value in that matchup. Oakland should be able to score some runs today at 2,500. Okay, let's move to second base. And what are we looking at? Max Muncy has second base eligibility. We didn't ride him there in first base, but at second base, I really do like his value there at 3,600. So Max Muncy getting in some lineups on second base on FanDuel. And then we got a whole lot of cheap guys here. Jorge Polanco for Arizona. I do like this Minnesota-Los Angeles Angels matchup to be a really high scoring game. We talked about Houston Herrera for Milwaukee in the first base. I wouldn't use him there. I would use him here at 2,600 for second base. Really good value. I'd sprinkle in a little Josh Harrison and Sterling Castro in there. I think there's a lot of cheap second basemen that you can use in here. Polanco, Herrera, Harrison, and Castro I really like. And if you were looking really super cheap, Rio Ruiz for Baltimore versus Texas, that should be a very poor pitching matchup, really all series long. So at 2,300, I take a peek there. But I'm really looking at this 27 to 2,500 range in Polanco, Herrera, Harrison, and Sterling Castro. Think there's a good bit of value there. But if you want to go high value, max money, see getting second base eligibility in FanDuel, think there's pretty good value there. On to third base, and we got another sort of middle tier right in that 3,000 range. I do like Vladimir Guerrero's matchup versus KC, but I just think that's too much money when you can get really good value at $3,000 here. Josh Donaldson's going to make his play for Minnesota today versus the Angels. We talked about how we thought that was going to be a high-scoring game. Maikel Franco for Baltimore, batting 6 versus Texas. That should be really good. Travis Shaw once again pops up here at third base at $3,000. Milwaukee-Pittsburgh. Milwaukee should be able to hit the Pittsburgh pitching. Isaiah Keener Falfa for Texas versus Baltimore. He's going to bat leadoff. That should pay dividends. So you got 4 guys there, I think, who'd had really good days in the $3,000 mark that'll really give you flexibility throughout when you want to use some high-level guys, or if you want to use those high-level pitchers that I didn't choose to use. But I really like that group of players there. Okay, let's go to the shortstop, and we aren't going quite as cheap here. I love Trey Turner today, so I'm going to put Trey Turner in a lot of lineups. $4,000 for shortstop, that's really expensive, but that's why I'm saving at second and third base and using those lower tier guys, and even saving a little bit on pitcher. But Tim Anderson, and we talked about Tatis being back today at $3,000. You probably won't be able to get Tatis for very long at $3,000, so you might want to do it now for sure. But Tim Anderson, Tatis, Bo Bichette's been on fire, and Trey Turner really is what I'm looking at in lineups that I'm going to play at shortstop. So I'm not going too cheap there. One cheap guy I did like, Anderson Tejada for Texas in that Baltimore game. Should be a poorly pitched game. Maybe you can spring a couple runs or a couple hits there for $2,000. But I'm spending here at shortstop today. Either at Trey Turner or Bo Bichette, or dropping down and saving about $1,000 and going with Tim Anderson or Fernando Tatis Jr. Okay, let's go to the outfielders. We got a lot of outfielders to go through. I like a lot of matchups tonight. Mike Trout versus Minnesota. This should be just a run fest, so I think you got to use Mike Trout. Juan Soto versus Arizona. Once again, really big value there. So if you saved on the guys I told you to save in the infield, you can really spend here in the outfield. Bryce Harper, I think, presents really good value. Buxton, I don't love the value at 4,100, but this Minnesota-LA game really should have a lot of homers, so you might want to spot him in there in a couple lineups to get some homers. Same thing with Nelson Cruz, and he's about $100 cheaper than Buxton. So, but I'm guessing somebody homers for Minnesota today, so Buxton, Cruz, I really take a look at. Yelich at 3,700, I do really like that value. So maybe I try to fit a Trout or Soto in there with a Harper, and then maybe drop down and see if I can spring in a Yelich. A couple more on the cheap side of things. Joey Gallo, I think really good value at 3,100 today. I might give that a look. Kyle Schwarber, thing in a dome there in Arizona, or a dome or open stadium, whatever they choose it to be. But anyway, at 3,000, Schwarber looks like a pretty good matchup. Same thing with Anthony Santana for Baltimore versus Texas at 3,000. So, I mean, there's some really decent shots you might want to take here at cheap if you don't want to go for these really big name guys. that you might be able to get value on. Outfielders really, really deep today. And even more cheap, I had Victor Robles highlighted. He's been hitting homers. That's about all he's been hitting, homers or strikeouts. But if you can get the homer at 2,700, really good value. Sort of the same play there in Justin Upton. And then really Jackie Bradley Jr. Leading off in that Milwaukee game versus Pittsburgh at 2,400. If you're going cheap on outfielders, there are a handful of guys you could really go cheap on. But I'm probably going to play a whole lot of these top guys in Trout, Soto, Harper, and then maybe try to stretch into maybe sneak in a Gallo or Schwarber there. Okay, so those are our baseball DFS players of the day. Let's go on to the NBA and take a look at what our NBA players of the day are. And guess what? We'll start in point guard. And guess who we have highlighted? Russell Westbrook. If you aren't putting this guy in your lineups, you're probably not winning a lot of lineups because he is putting up ridiculous numbers. And that should probably continue versus a very poor defensive team in New Orleans. So just ride Russell Westbrook. A couple guys on the cheap side that I think you can put in there if you don't want Russell Westbrook. Lillard and Wall both have pretty good matchups here. Monty Morris is really a poor defensive guy. He tries hard, but Wall should be able to score points here for Houston. Lillard matched up versus San Antonio has been really bad defensively. You can try to go a little cheaper and maybe squeeze those guys in and not have to pay the $11,300 for Russell Westbrook on FanDuel. But with the numbers Russell's been putting up, it's hard to not at least lead a whole lot of lineups with Russell Westbrook in it. Even on the cheaper side, Ja Morant versus Chicago really should have a decent matchup there and should be able to score some points. He's really been good in the assists lately. So maybe a nice double-double there for Ja Morant versus Chicago at 6,900. Pretty decent value. And lastly, I was going to highlight Monty Morris. Well, he can't defend all that well. Houston's a great matchup for him, and he should be able to score. You're getting him at 5,100, so that's really nice value for Monty Morris. Okay, let's go to the shooting guards, and we're probably going to spend here Beal, DeRozan, Van Fleet. I think all really need to be played in a whole lot of lineups. I don't know what to make of Paul George, so I'm just going to leave him out. He's been really good, but I don't know how much these guys are going to play in this Philly game, or if they're going to play. I know Kawhi was, day to day, and I assume Paul's going to go, but he's been complaining about banged up stuff, so there's no telling. So I'm leaving Paul George out, riding Bradley Beal and DeMar DeRozan, who've been really good. Tossing in Fred Van Fleet here with a nice matchup versus Orlando, and then Grayson Allen continues to produce at a pretty cheap price. So if you're looking to save money in the shooting guards, Allen at 4,700, really nice value, and then Yuta Watanabe for Toronto. Versus Orlando, really nice matchup. I might spring him in a good solid amount of lineups, especially ones where I'm going to use Westbrook at 3,500. He will put up at least some numbers, so you can put those numbers up, combine them with Westbrook, and you got a pretty nice balance there. So Yuta Watanabe, Grayson Allen, I'm definitely looking at the shooting guard in the point guard area where I'm going to spend probably big on Westbrook in a lot of lineups. Okay, let's move to the small forwards. And I don't know what you can do with these top guys. Kawhi's, day to day, if he plays, he's probably worth the value there. But Kevin Durant, if he plays, is probably worth the value, but they've been limiting his minutes pretty good. Jimmy Butler's been banged up, but playing, and his numbers have suffered a little bit. So I'm not really going after any of those top three guys and spending the money there, especially when I can drop down and get some guys who might equal their numbers. And that first one is Anthony Edwards versus Miami. They aren't pretty, they aren't efficient, but they are numbers, and Anthony Edwards gets them. But really the one I'm going to throw a lot of money at is Michael Porter. We'll see if he can step up with Jamal Murray out. A lot of the scoring burden is going to go to him. Jokic should use him now, probably as the main pick and roll partner. So Porter and Jokic pick and rolls should be really interesting to see how they play that out, and a really nice matchup for Houston. So Michael Porter in a lot of lineups, and then I think you could get away with a handful of cheap guys here. Norman Powell has a nice matchup versus San Antonio, and he's coming in at $6,000. Lou Dort versus OKC in Detroit. If you can stomach watching that game, my guess is Lou Dort will get some numbers at 5,700. Rue has been playing really, really good for the Washington Wizards, so 4,900 there, really good value. And Caleb Martin and Cody Martin both have been getting a whole lot of minutes for Charlotte because they don't have much else to play, but Caleb Martin's coming in at 3,500. So if you're looking for really, really cheap there, but I think Porter, Rui, and Dort are going to be my main three guys on the small forward side of things. Okay, let's go to power forward, and we're going to either do one of two things here. We're going to spend on Zion, or we're going to drop all the way down and see if Aaron Gordon can pick up the slack here and then get some of that leftover scoring punch from Jamal Murray. So a whole lot of Zion, whole lot of Aaron Gordon at 5,300, and then I might sprinkle in a whole lot of cheap guys. Kaheem Birch is playing Orlando, his old team, so maybe there's some magic there, and he goes for a revenge game at $4,000. He has always been able to sort of do grungy things like rebound and stuff, so we'll see if Kaheem Birch has any value there at $4,000. Do you like that one? Same thing with Isaiah Stewart. He's raw, but he's going to play minutes and he's going to get numbers. So at 4,800, you might want to throw a couple Isaiah Stewarts in that lineup there for sure. But Gordon, Zion going to be my main small forward guy, power forward guys for sure. Onwards to the center, and Jokic has to be played. I think Jokic is really going to somehow even get better numbers in this matchup for Houston. He should carve them to shreds. So really use Jokic in a handful of lineups. That's why we've given you so many of the really, really cheap guys. So when you want to use these really, really expensive guys, you can balance it out with some of the really, really cheap guys. If you're looking for a more balanced middle tier center, Podol's been pretty solid and should be an interesting matchup with him and Nurkic and Cantor. Wendell Carter with the Mo Bamba playing bad again, and I think Wendell will start to get more and more minutes. Decent matchup versus Toronto there, $6,000, so you might balance that out. The one cheap one I'm looking at, DeAndre Jordan's $5,000. With Aldridge out, it might lead to more minutes for DeAndre Jordan. So if you're looking really cheap center, maybe DeAndre Jordan, though he's not very good, might get a handful of more minutes here. And versus Charlotte, there's not really much inside or outside anymore for Charlotte, though they're still playing hard and still somehow managing to win games. But Jokic, Carter, Podol, and then probably Jordan will be how I balance out my lineups for sure. So those are the DFS players of the day in MLB and NBA. Be sure to follow us at greenlightnetwork.org, Greenlight Network on Facebook and YouTube. I'm GLN Champ 5, both on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to follow me for more and more updates on all our Greenlight Network shows, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our great, great content. That's our show. May the odds be ever in your favor, and we're out.